Welcome to this how-to video on the simple monthly and annual budget tracker. This one is for Google Sheets. I also have one available on the Etsy store for Excel if you're more interested in the Excel version. The purpose of this video is to show you how to use the tracker in detail and also explain some of the great features that come with it. So it's a simple monthly tracker with also an annual total. So there's one sheet for each particular month with input categories where you'll put in your various, your income, your expenses, etc. And some really nice dashboards to show how you're tracking and your progress throughout the month. And there's also an annual total sheet, which will show you on a full year basis how you're going, how your budget is going, and how you're going against your budget. So it's a really simple and effective way to track your finances. When you open up your tracker, you'll see a number of sheets. So the sheet I'm on now is the example month sheet. So it's just got some example transactions and how it looks. So you've got the dashboards at the top and the input categories down below. There is a instructions sheet just with some basic instructions on how to use the tracker, including a link to contact us for any questions or issues, a link to this particular video, so the detailed video instructions, as well as some basic instructions. Be helpful to use the tracker. So there's one sheet per month for all of the 12 months, and then also an annual total sheet. So that will give you a full year total to see how you're tracking. So just a quick overview of the monthly sheet. So at the top of each month, you'll have a start date and a finish date. So all you need to put in is the year. And this is also where you'll have your dashboards. So you'll have a cash flow dashboard, which will show you your starting balance for that particular month, and then your various categories. So your income, bills, expenses, savings, and debt categories. And then, so that'll be your plan and your actual and a variance, and then also your ending balance. So how you ended that particular month. And there's a few really nice charts as well. So there's a left to spend chart, which shows you how much you've got left to spend for that particular month, and also how much you have spent. And a nice feature here is there's also a left to budget. So you can see how much you've got left to budget for that particular month and how much you have budgeted. And then panning across a little bit, we have the plan versus actuals chart, which again shows you for your various categories. So your income, bills, expenses, savings, and debt categories. It shows you in two different colors, your plan and your actual. So in a nice visual format to see how you tracked against your plan for that month. And then a little further to the right, we have the top 10 spending breakdown. So this show you in a chart format as well as in a table format your top 10 bills and expense categories. So where you spent most of your money. So it shows you the amount in the table plus also the percentage of total spending that made up. And then it also shows you in a chart. So really good representation of where you are spending most of your money. So down below the dashboards, we have the various areas where you will input your income and expenses. So we have a table for income, savings, bills, expenses, and also debt. And this is where you'll break down your various, for example, income categories. So it might be different pays, different jobs, overtime bonuses, etc. You'll break that down into what you are planning to earn for that month, and then you'll also input how much you actually earn. And you can do the same for savings as well. And then you'll have bills, expenses, and debt. So the same kind of philosophy there where you break your bills into your various categories and then put how much you are planning to spend on each of those bills. And a nice feature for the bills as well, you've got a due date, so that'll help you keep track of when that particular bill is due, and a little checkbox as well that you can check off when you've paid that bill. And just an explanation on the bills and expenses. So basically what we've done is we've split them into two different areas. So your bills will be your fixed expenses. So they will be your expenses that will be fixed for each month and will come up every single month. So things like your rent, your electricity, your internet, your insurances, they're considered your fixed expenses. So they're put in the bills table, whereas your expenses are your variable expenses. So things like your groceries, it might be going out for a meal at a cafe and restaurant, getting a coffee, those kind of expenses. So those are ones also that will happen probably multiple times during the month. So with those, what we've done is that you put the expenses, the plan for those expenses in the table. And down below here, we have the little expense tracker. So that is where on a daily basis, you'll be inputting your expenses and by date and by category. And just an explanation on the input areas within the template. So you'll notice that, for example, in the income table up here, we have white cells and colored cells. Now the white cells denote input. So for example, we have in the category, in the planned, in the actuals amounts. These are all areas where you can input. So they're the white cells so that you can edit those cells and put your various categories or your amounts in there. Whereas the colored cells will have a formula. So for example, here you've got a progress bar in your income table. So that'll have a formula. So that shouldn't be overwritten. And just one further explanation, the way we've designed it as well is we want certain types of input into certain cells. So for example, in your planned and actuals amounts, this will only allow a number input. And this will make sure that all the formulas for the totals, the progress bars work and the dashboards work as expected. So if you were to try and put in text into an area where it wants an amount, it won't allow that input. So if I try and put in some text here where it's asking for an amount, as an example, so if I try and put in just text and hit enter, you'll get a little pop-up message saying that there was a problem and that it's asking for a number input. So this is to ensure that all the formulas work as expected. So it won't allow that input. Okay, so now that we've given you a very brief overview of the great features that come with the tracker, let's go in and show you how to use it in detail. So one thing you can always do here with your Google Sheets is make a copy of this particular template. So if you want to, and you can do that at the start of the next year as well. So one great feature is you don't have to buy this template every year. You can just do this for one entire year and then just make a copy of it for the following year. So to make a copy, all you need to do is go to File and make a copy. So very simple. Now the first step will be to go to your annual total sheet and just put in your start balance. So this is how much you are starting that particular year off with. So that might be the amount of money in your bank accounts or in cash. So it's just your start balance. So we're going to put in a start balance here in this annual total. And in this example, we're just going to put in 250. So now that we've put in the starting balance, let's go to the first month and start filling that in. So we're going to go to the January sheet. So on the January sheet, you'll notice that the start balance is flowing in from that annual total. So that'll automatically be populated. So that's your starting balance. And January is going to be the first month that we populate. So the first thing to do is to put in the year. So this will need to be in number format. So I'm just going to put in 2024. And you'll notice that the heading comes up as January 2024, and also the start date will be the first day of that particular month, and the finish date will be the last day of that month. And the next step here is to start filling in your planned amount. So basically your budget for this particular month. And we'll do that in the various categories. So we're going to start with the income. And with the income, we'll break this down into the various categories where you might be earning income. So in this example, we've got a few categories. So I'm just going to put those in now. So in this example, we've got these 5 categories. So it just allows you to break down your income into those categories. And then the next part will be to put in how much did you plan to earn from each of those particular areas. So let's put that in. And one thing just to show you here was that we talked briefly before about how the white cells are input cells, but also that they'll only allow certain types of input. So in this planned and actuals columns, it will only allow a number greater than 0. So for example, if we try and put text in here, it will come up with a little message saying it needs a number input, and please enter number and greater than 0. And the reason for this is that way all the formulas will work as expected. So in this case, we're going to put in 600 instead. And you'll notice that there's a total now at the bottom. So this is your total plan for the month. So the total now is 4,750 at the bottom here at that table. And also that's flowing through into the cash flow dashboard. So you'll see that the income total for the planned amount is flowing through there as well. Now we'll move down to the savings areas. So these are the different categories that you might be saving for. So again, helpful to break this down if you're saving for particular things to show how you're going against for your savings in those particular categories. So in this example, we're going to have a car, renovations, a holiday, a wedding, and this person is also saving up for a new surfboard. And again, we can put in the planned amount. So how much are we planning to save for those particular categories for that month? So there are our planned amounts for the month. And again, you'll see the total at the bottom. So they're planning to save a total of $400 for the month, and also flowing through into the cash flow dashboard. So you'll see the planned amounts for savings flowing through. So the next area is the bills. So again, these were the fixed expenses for your month. So there'll be things like the rent and electricity, those kind of items. So in this example, I'm just going to put in a number of bills categories first. So with the bills, we have the due date as well. So this can be really handy to show you when those particular bills are due to be paid. So helpful in making sure you don't miss paying them. So with the due date, it's just a little drop-down box here. And this will be the days of the month. So from 1st to 31st. So all you need to do is just click on the drop-down and then you can select the date that it's due. So I'm just going to fill those in now for these particular categories. And then the next part will be to fill in how much you're expecting to pay on all of those bills for the month. So with the bills, we'll also have a total at the bottom there showing your total expected bills for the month, and then also flowing through into the cash flow dashboard. And let's move across to the expenses. So these were the variable expenses for the month. So let's put in the categories now. And then we can put in the planned amount. So how much are you expecting to spend on all of those different categories for the month? So this will be really helpful, especially when you start tracking these to see how much you are actually spending on, groceries, etc. So also for expenses, we have a total at the bottom showing your total expected expense planned amount for the month. And then also coming through into the cash flow dashboard. So showing that you're expected to spend $1,845 on your variable expenses for the month. And the next area that we have is the debt. So this is where you can put in your loans, your credit card, etc., those kind of payments that you want to track during the month. So let's put those in now. And also with the debt, we have the drop down for the due date. So again, you can click on the little drop down button to put in when these particular payments are due. So this will be, again, helpful for you to track and make sure you don't miss the payments. And then we can also put in how much we expected to pay off those particular categories. So those loans and credit cards for the month. And also for your debt, you have the total at the bottom. So this is the total amount that you expected to pay off your debt for that particular month. So now that you've put in all of those planned amounts, your budget, what you'll do now is during the month, you would then start to input the actual amounts as they come in. So for example, bills, when you pay them, you would put that on the tracker. your income, when you earn that, you'd put that on the tracker. So the idea is to try and do this every single day with your bills, expenses, all those particular areas. So really stay on top of it. For the purpose of this demonstration, we're just going to do it all in one hit, and we're going to do it one category at a time. But in reality, you'd be doing this, ideally, strong tip is to try and do this every single day. But as soon as those bills are paid or the income comes in. So let's just start with our income. Now, again, we're just going to put all of this in one go. So let's put in our actual amounts. So they go in here. So with the actual amounts, we put those in. So now there'll also be a total at the bottom. So you'll see that you have your total for your plan, your total for your actual. So how much did you actually earn for that particular month? And then a nice little feature as well is the progress bar. So there's a progress bar for each particular category, and the color will be darker the closer you get to 100%. So for example, if I made this 0, you'll see that that's a light color being 0%. And the closer you get to 100, the darker the color goes. And it'll give you a good track to see how you went against your budget. So for example, the second pay, we earned slightly less than our budget, so 91%. And overall, we earned just a little bit less than what we were hoping to do, and we hit 97% of our budget. So you'll also see this flowing through into the cash flow dashboard. So now for income, you have the actual amount coming through as well. So the next area we're going to jump down to is the savings. So we'll put this into the actual column, and this will be how much did you save for these particular categories during the month. So with the savings as well, there's a total at the bottom showing how much your total actual savings were against your plan. And we also have the progress bar, so showing for each of the different categories, how did we go against our plan in a percentage, and also it'll show in the different colors. So we'll see again with the 0%, it's a lighter color, and then a darker color, the color gets darker as we get closer to 100%. And this is also coming through into the cash flow dashboard. So you'll see now your actual amount coming through for your savings. Now the next part will be the bills. So again, do these as you pay each particular bill. And there's also a nice feature here that there's a little checkbox with the bill. So for example, when we pay our Netflix bill, we'll put the amount in, and then we can also use the checkbox to check off that we've paid that particular bill. Again, you don't have to use this, but it's just a nice handy little feature to show that you've paid that particular bill. So I'm just going to fill in the rest of the amounts now. So that's all of our bills information filled in. And we'll see now the total at the bottom, so showing that you paid $1,655, so basically 100% of your bills. The progress bar for each particular bill. So the only ones that weren't 100 was the electricity was 93%, so it was a little bit less, so that's good. And with the water, it was a little bit higher than your plan, so it was 117%. So maybe this person was showering for a little bit too long during the week. And this will also now flow through into the cash flow dashboard as your actual amount for your bills. And the next area here is the debt. So again, fill this in when you actually pay off your particular loan or credit card, but we'll just do this in one go. And with each of these as well, you have the checkbox. So you can check them off just to show that, yes, I've paid that particular loan or credit card. And with this one as well, you have the progress bar. So for each of the different categories, showing how you went against your plan, and then also a total at the bottom. And for the debt, this is also now flowing through into the cash flow dashboard. So the last area to fill in is your expenses. So if we pan down, we have the expense tracker down here. So this is where you'll fill in your variable expenses on a day-by-day basis. So ideally, you're hopefully doing this, tip to do it every single day to fill this in and they'll keep a really good control over what you're spending. So to put this in, there's a few different areas. So we've got a date, category, amount, and any notes. So the date for this it'll need to be in the format of day, month, and year. and it'll be between the start date and the finish date for that month. So if we just go up to the top again, so this particular month was January and we put in the year of 2024. So the start date for that month was the 1st of January. The end date was the 31st of January. So the date that we put into the expense tracker will need to be between that date. So in here, so there's a couple of ways to put the date in. One thing you can do is you can type it in. So I can put in the 1st of the 1st, 24, and then I'll just put that in that format. So with Google Sheets, the other way to bring up the date is to simply hit enter on that cell. And that'll bring up a calendar and you can select the date from there. So the second area was the category. So with the category, we have the drop-down list. And this list will be the drop-down of the categories, expense categories that you put in your planned table up the top. So let's just have a look at that. So the available categories are the ones that you put into this table and with the planned amounts. So if you need more categories, all you need to do is just simply add them into this table up here. So to select a category, all you need to do is just select the drop-down list, select a particular category. So in this case, it's going to be the groceries, and then you can put in your amount. So again, the amount needs to be a number greater than 0 for all the formulas to work. And then here in this field, you can put in any notes. So again, not compulsory, but just anything that you want to put in that might help you with a description of the expenses. So in this case, I'm just going to put in weekly, supermarket, shop. And then you can continue filling in your expenses. So try and do this every day. So on the 2nd of January in this example, person went out and got a coffee, and then the amount in there. So I'm just going to go in now and fill in the rest of the expenses for January, and then we can have a look at how it all looks. Okay, that's all the expenses filled in for the month for this example. And now if we go up to our expenses table up here, you can see all the actual amounts coming through. So for example, groceries, we did groceries maybe 4 or 5 times during the month, and it'll total all of that up to show you your actual amount that you spent on your groceries. So in this example, it was $675. It will also show you how much you have left of your budget. So in this case, $25, because you planned for $700 for the month. And it'll also show you your progress bar. So in this case, it was 96% of your budget for groceries. And it's a really good way of looking at the various categories, especially at the end of the month, to see how you went against your plan. And that way you can make any adjustments that you need. So for example, for health food, it was $65, so you went over your budget, and it'll show you that you've got a negative number left, and also the progress was more than 100%. So I'll have that for each of the categories, and also the total. So you'll see now the total expenses that you spent money on for the month coming through, as well as how much you've got left of your budget and the progress percentage. And this is now also flowing through into your cash flow dashboard. So those expenses were coming through. So now that you've completed a 1 month, this example month, you've put in all of your plan, you put in all of your actual amounts coming through, it's a really good time to review your progress and see how you went against your plan. And this is what the dashboards are for. So to start with, the cash flow dashboard. So we've got that start balance, and we've got the categories of income, bills, expenses, savings and debt. And for all of those categories, we can see for the entire month how we went against our plan. So for example, for income, we earned $4,615 against our plan of $4,750. So it also shows a variance. So in this case, it's a negative variance, and it'll show in this lighter color, meaning that you didn't quite meet your budget for your income. Now for the bills and expenses, so expenses, for example, we actually spent $1,614. So we spent $231 less than our budget. So that'll be a positive variance, being that we spent less than a budget, and it'll show that in the darker color. So it has that for each of the different categories, and then also your ending balance. So in this case, we projected that we would end with $545 for the month. We actually finished the month with $761, so a positive variance. So we made a little bit more than we expected to for the month. So that's the cash flow dashboard. So it'll give you a breakdown of each of the categories as well as your ending balance for the month. And then if we jump across to the left to spend, so this will show you here your ending balance, and that's also your left to spend, where we are at the end of the month. And then in the chart, it'll have the left to spend and also how much we spent. So that is on your bills, expenses, savings, and debt categories, how much we spent during that particular month. And then also it's got the left to budget. So in this case, it's how much we have left to budget and how much we had budgeted for. And then the next one we can analyze is that plan versus actuals chart. So for each of the different categories, so being income, bills, expenses, savings, and debt, it will show you your actual amount against your plan. So for example, for income, for the full month, we were able to earn $4,615. So that'll show it in the blue chart, and then against your plan of $4,750. So for each of those categories, nice visual representation of how you went for all of those categories against your plan. And then also the chart and table for your top 10 spending breakdown. So this is a really good way of seeing how much you are spending most of your money. So the top 10 categories. So it'll show it in the chart and in the table. And in the table, it shows the dollar amount as well as the percentage of total spending. Now this percentage is a percentage of your total bills and expenses. So these top 10 won't necessarily add to 100% because you've got other categories in there as well, but it shows you how much you are spending on those categories as a percentage of your total spending. So as an example, rent was the number one category. So in this example, $800 was spent on rent for the month, and that is almost a quarter of your total spending. And your next highest was groceries, and that's 20.6% of your total spend. So a really good way to see what are the major things that you're spending money on. Now, as you've completed that January month, we can also see it now flowing through into the annual total. So if we go to our annual total, you will see basically the same format as a month one, but this is all of your months added up. So far we've only done 1 month in this example. So your annual total will be the same as the January month, but it's the same kind of format. So dashboards at the top and then your various categories down below. So you can see, your full year or year to date balances coming through. So you will notice that one difference here is that, for example, in this income table, all of the cells are colored. So that means that they're all going to be formulas. So basically this is just a total of all of your months added up. So the only input in here was that start balance. So what we're going to do now is just fill in some transactions for February, and I'll show you how that's coming through on the annual dashboard to see your annual total. So let's jump into the February month, and I'm just going to put some transactions in now for February. So we've now finished filling in some example transactions for the second month. So with the second month as well, you can do all your analysis at the top with the dashboards, and you'll also see this flowing through into the annual total. So if we jump into the annual total page, you'll be able to see all your amounts now for January and February coming through. So this is now on a year-to-date basis, seeing the 2 months coming through in your total. So this is a really handy way of seeing your full year picture, and this will continue to fill in as you fill in the rest of the months. So as we mentioned before, the tracker is designed to be used for an entire year. So you'll fill in, if you're starting in January, you'll fill in your January month and then all the way through to December. You'll see all of those amounts then coming through in the annual dashboard. And then when you're ready to start a new year, no need to purchase again. You can just make a copy of this template and start again with the next year. So maybe just a couple of tips for you in terms of how you set this out. So definitely one option is you just do it month by month. So you fill in your plan for the month and then your actuals as they come through. And that way on the annual total sheet, you'll always see a year to date. So for example, we filled in now January and February. So on this annual total, we'll see year to date February. So basically January and February together. The other option is that you can fill in all of your planned amounts on each of the months to start with, and then just fill in the actual amounts. You could fill in January to December, all of your planned amounts, and then fill in your actuals during the month as they come through. And that way you would see on your annual total a full year plan, and then as your actuals start to come through, how you're tracking against that. So a couple of different options there. So out of the box, it is designed to be used from January through to December. So what we showed you before, for example, that if we go to the February sheet, that the start balance for February will be the ending balance for January. So that's how it's designed out of the box. So if you're using it January to December, absolutely, no need to change anything. There is also, if you say purchase this in July or a different month, and you want to do track your budget and your actuals from say July to June, there's just a couple of little tweaks that we need to make. So let me make a copy of this, open up a different copy of this without these transactions, and I'll show you how to do that. So there's just a couple of little tweaks you need to make if you want to run this from, say, in this example, we're going to start it from July. So we're going to run it from July to June. So if we go to the July month, and we're going to put in the date, 2024. And with the start balance, that's where we need to make the tweaks. Now, with the start balance, you'll notice that the cells are white, which means that they are editable. So you can just type the amounts in, but you can also link this. So if July is going to be your first month, what we can do is we can link this to the annual total sheet where you put in your start balance. So all we need to do is just put in equals, go to the annual total sheet, and we're going to say equals the start balance. And we're going to do the same for the actual. So that is now linked to your annual total. So July will then be your first month. So the months like August, September, October, November, and December will automatically be linked to that July one. So there's no problem there. The only other tweak you need to make will be with January, because January out of the box is the first month. In this case, it'll be the 7th month. So if we go to the January sheet, and in this case, it would be 2025. And we just need to link this now to the December sheet. So again, if we just put in equals December, and this will be the December closing balance. And same for the actual amount. We just put in equals the December closing amount. And that's the only tweaks you need to make if you don't want to run it from January to December. So in this example, we showed how to do it from July through to June. So just making a couple of tweaks to the start balance, and that way you can run it from any start month that you like. And probably just a couple of final tips. One really important one mentioned a few times is to just try and track your expenses and your income every single day. That way you really stay on top of it and don't miss adding anything into the tracker. And try and review your expenses and your progress regularly. So, at the end of each month, do a review against your plan and see how you're tracking. And there might be some opportunities to save some money doing it that way as well. And just finally, just want to wish you all the best on your financial journey. And I hope that this tracker helps you with that. Thanks a lot. Bye.